Pouring rain and chilly temperatures across much of Australia couldn't keep the crowds away. Tens of thousands of Australians have turned out to remember Australian soldiers who fought in past wars. This year marks the 96th anniversary of the Gallipoli landing and the 88th anniversary of the first dawn service. About 20,000 people turned out for this year's dawn service at Australia's War Memorial in Canberra. John King is the president of the Australian Capital Territory branch of the Returned Services League. He asked the crowd to dedicate themselves to making the world a better place.
We who are gathered here today in this dawn vigil remember with gratitude that the men and women who have given and are still giving in our armed and supporting services all that is theirs to give in order that the world may be a nobler place in which to live.
ANZAC Day services have also paid tribute to those who've lost their lives in recent conflicts, as well as honouring those who are currently serving overseas. Bob Crawshaw is the spokesman for the Australian War Memorial.
The Australian men and women who are serving overseas in Afghanistan and on peacekeeping missions and elsewhere were also remembered. And while we remember the ANZACs who landed 96 years ago, we also paid a special attention to those that are currently serving.
Dawn services have been followed by ANZAC parades around the country, with diggers marching alongside the children and grandchildren of servicemen and women. The Prime Minister, Julia Gillard, attended a dawn service in Seoul and laid a wreath at the South Korean War Memorial. The service coincided with the 60th anniversary of the Battle of Kap Yong, dubbed the Forgotten Battle of the Korean War. Julia Gillard says a new resource at the Australian War Memorial will feature the Battle of Kap Yong. She says the new attraction will mean the veterans of that conflict will always be remembered.
The panel will recognise those Australians missing in action during the Korean War whose bodies have not been recovered. Importantly, it will also recognise the service of those Australians who served in Korea after the armistice in 1953.
Australian Minister for Veterans Affairs Warren Snowden attended the dawn service at Gallipoli. Mr Snowden was the first official representative to lay a wreath of remembrance at ANZAC Cove. He told those present the landing of Australian troops at the site in 1915 was a formative chapter in Australia's history.
From the tragedy and sacrifice, they learnt the strength and importance of mateship, love for one another. And this terse, bloody and unwinnable campaign was a defining moment for Australians, for understanding why we are, who we are, in forming and framing our national identity.
The sombre dawn service held at ANZAC Cove was also attended by dignitaries from New Zealand and Turkey. Thousands of Australians and New Zealanders also made the annual pilgrimage to Gallipoli to pay their respects to the ANZACs who fought there. Another ANZAC Day service was held in Villers-Bretonneux in France, which was a key tactical and strategic battleground on the Western Front of the First World War. Foreign Affairs Minister Kevin Rudd spoke at the service, saying Australians played a crucial role in the war effort at the Western Front.
Australians, therefore, were not simply bit players in the great drama that unfolded here, a drama that helped shape the outcome of the war. Together with the British, the French, the Canadians, the Indians, the South Africans, the New Zealanders and the Americans, we were critical to that outcome.
A French Secretary of State, Thierry Mariani, thanked Australian forces for their sacrifice during the war.
We never forget their engagement on our country's battlefields. Indeed, France will never forget the engagement of the Australian people in the defence of our liberty.
Other ANZAC Day services have also been held in places where Australian military personnel are currently serving, including Afghanistan, the Solomon Islands and East